This is a little Yamaha Towny motor scooter. It's a 1982 model. And I'm getting ready to change the tires on it. So I'm going to show you what's involved in that. These old tires are the original tires that came on the bike in '82. You can see it's starting to get a lot of little weather cracks in between the tread here. Maybe you can see that. And on the sidewalls, a lot of little cracks appearing around there too. They're just old. Still got tread on them, but I'm gonna replace them. Got new tires right over there. So thought you might like to see what's involved in getting those wheels off of there. Put a block of wood under the frame right here so both wheels are off the ground. On this side here, there's a cotter pin right here I gotta pull out, and then I'll remove this axle. Okay, all right, that was easy enough. To get this rear wheel off, I'm gonna have to remove this shock, this fender brace, this exhaust, this rear swing arm, and then the whole wheel and tire should slide right off of its hub. There we go. This is the front tire I'm doing first. If you're going to try and reuse your tube, you want to make sure you use, rounded tools here to pull these tire off. Otherwise, you take a good chance of pinching the tube or poking a hole in it if you're just using a regular screwdriver. I've got a new tube, so I'm not going to be using this old tube. And I've learned, instead of trying to dig in there and pop this off the same way you brought the first one off, if you turn it over and kind of push on it this way, you can usually just tear them right off. There we go. So that's that tire. And it actually, you can really see it now how all the weather cracks. It's a pretty old tire. The wheel cleaned up real nice. I first washed stuff off with soap and water, then I took some steel wool and cleaned up this chrome, real fine grade steel wool. So it looks pretty good. This is the rubber tube protector that goes around it. If there's any sharp edges on these spoke nuts, it helps the tube from getting pinched or get a little hole put in it or something. So you always want to put this thing back on if you don't have one or you can't find one. At least take some black electrical tape or something and run around there. Okay, that looks good. It's just going to be a matter of working it on there. Now we'll stick the tube in there. I always coat the tube with some baby powder because then it has a little bit of a lubrication around it, so when it gets inside the tire, you know, start blowing it up in case it was folded or something, why the powder will help it. Get my air hose and put a little air in it, not too much, but just enough to kind of start stretching that tube out. And then I'll let the air out, kind of wiggle it around a little bit like this. Do that 2 or 3 times. Then I'll have less of a chance of having a fold in there. Now, do the same process for the rear tire. And if they'll last another 40 years like the original tires did, why, they'll outlast me. I decided while I've got the wheels off, I might as well go ahead and switch out the brake shoes. So I bought new brake shoes for it. These fronts really aren't bad. They don't really need to be changed, but I went ahead and bought front and rear, so I'm going to do them both. I disconnected the speedometer cable and the brake cable so I could bring this front hub over here and put it in the vise, make it a little easier to work on. But basically you just pop them off. There's a little spring here that runs around here and ties the two together. So if I can pry that out a little bit, there we go. Pop it up like that. Okay, do the same thing on this side if I can. Okay, it's all cleaned up now. Here's my new brake shoes. Went ahead and pulled this seal out and pulled that speedometer gear off there, cleaned all that old grease out of the inside of there real good, repacked it with some fresh stuff. So now we'll see if we can get these shoes on. Get it out of the package. Seems to be the most difficult part so far. All right. And I bought a new spring. I could have used the old spring, but I figured since I'm buying it, this is only a couple bucks more. I don't think there's a front and back to them. Each shoe looks identical to the other side. So just a matter of dropping that in there. And then there. I'm going to put just a little film of grease in here. In here. I think maybe I can just, if I can get this to open up and slide in there. Okay. Okay, that went pretty good. I think that's okay. And when you pull on the brake cable, this lever actuates in that direction, and you see it spreads the shoes out. All right, that's ready to go back on. I'll go put the ones on the rear now. Okay, I learned something on doing that front. I think all we gotta do is take that off of there, slide it right out of here. Oh, let's see. There we go. I just went and washed my hands because I don't want to get any grease on the shoes. If you do happen to get some grease on there, you want to clean that off with some brake cleaner or some solvent of some kind real good. And let me see how am I going to do this. This one's a little, because of this axle, it's not quite as straightforward as the front. Okay, there we go. All right, now I can get my wheels back on there. Before I put this hub back on here, I remove those bearings out of there, clean them real good, repack them with grease. Okay, there's the front. I've got to put the shock absorber on here, hook up the brake cable front and rear, get them adjusted, and it's all back together now. I had a few days in between pulling those wheels off, putting the tires on, and getting the brake shoes because I had to order them. So during those few days I spent some time and cleaned it all up, repainted some of the black metal parts. This rear taillight bracket had a crack in it, so I welded that up, ground it down smooth, repainted it, and it looks pretty good. The seat was upholstered a few years ago, looks real nice. Pretty good shape for being a 40-year-old bike, I'd say. And it's a good running bike. Let me see if I can start it for you. The only thing I don't have for it is this side engine cover right here.
I've got the one on this side, the right side, but when I got the bike, that one was missing. So I'll just keep looking. Eventually I'll find one for sale somewhere.